are going to talk about session 2, paper presentation. In last session, we have learned that a way to make your ideas disseminate is by publishing papers or giving oral presentation. Some of you might say writing and publishing papers are so nerve-wracking, let alone giving presentations. You have done with your paper, but how can you turn it into a dynamic, informative, enjoyable presentation? Well, that's what this session about, paper presentation. Knowing how it is structured is quite important for a successful paper presentation. Its common structure goes like this. Firstly, title. It will be the same as your presentation topic. Secondly, introduction. Select 3 to 5 points to illustrate your topic. Sometimes you may have a point or two related to the background or in terms of literature review. Thirdly, body of your presentation. You may list your findings or results in this part. Remember to rank them according to the significance of these findings. You may list key point 1 and give details in one sentence, and so forth with key point 2. Fourthly, conclude your presentation. Use 1 or 2 sentences to summarize your presentation. To summarize or restate points of the paper, you can even make a suggestion or pose a question in this part. Now let's elaborate each part of presentation one by one. In your introduction, you have to, number 1, capture your audience attention. Number 2, state your purpose or your goal. For instance, you can use the sentence as follows. Today, I'm going to talk about my topic this morning is. And number 3, introduce the main points which will be stated in details in body part. In body part, you need to bear following 5 things in mind. Number 1, present your main points one by one in a logical order and use signal words to indicate where you are. Number 2, keep to the main points and avoid excessive details. You don't want to overload your audience with fluff, forcing them to miss the important stuff. Number 3, pause at the end of each point to give audience time to take notes or think about what you are saying. Number 4, use examples or anecdotes to illustrate your point whenever you find it difficult or abstract for the audience to understand. Number 5, use analogies. If possible, make a comparison between the content of your presentation and the knowledge the audience already have. These are the tips for your body part. How about in the conclusion part? 4 things should be noted in conclusion. Number 1, let the audience know that you are approaching the end of the presentation by restating your purpose and saying that you have achieved it. Number 2, leave your audience with a clear summary of the main points you have covered in the talk. Number 3, thank the audience. End your talk by saying thank you. Like most ratios, the thanks applause sequence comforts everyone. Number 4, give the audience a chance to ask questions. Use the sentence like, thank you. Are there any questions? Now you have learned the elements of a paper presentation, but how can you start your presentation? Now here comes the question, how to start your presentation. Any suggestions? You have offered some interesting suggestions. Now I will summarize the way you can start your presentation. Number 1, tell a story. Stories are one of the best ways to grab your audience attention because we all love a good story. Keep your story under 90 seconds and then continue with your presentation. Number 2, ask your audience a question. Invite your audience to participate in your presentation from the start or get them interested in your subject. You could ask a rhetorical question meant to stimulate their thought processes and prepare them for the rest of your presentation. Number 3, say something shocking. Share a shocking statistic or fact will grab your audience attention and get them interested to hear more. Number 4, share a meaningful quote. Make sure that the quote you choose is relevant to your topic. To sum up, when doing a paper presentation, repetition of the findings is acceptable. And always remember to have an interesting opening so you can engage the audience in your presentation. Show enthusiasm, think in terms of conversation, project your confidence, then you will make an amazing presentation. Here is a sample video. Please comment on the video by using what you have learned in this session.
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Yu Zhifeng. I come from Kunming University of Science and Technology. Today my topic is study on water contamination control and sustainable development in Dianchi Lake watershed, China. I will introduce my paper in these 4 parts. The first part is introduction, next part is methods, the third part is suggestion, and the next part is conclusion. Okay, the first part. In the introduction, I will give 3 aspects. The first one, research background. Located in the south of Kunming City in our province, Dianchi Lake, including 2 parts of Caohai and Waihai. Here is Caohai, and the big one is Waihai. And it's the largest lake in the Yunnan province, and it's also the 6th largest island freshwater lake in our country. And the Dianchi Lake was praised as the pearl of the plateaus. The lake is downstream of our city and is adjacent to our main city. And the city is the capital of our province, and it contains 4 million inhabitants. In the ancient times, the scenery around the lake is full of splendor. It's a wonderland for all beings. However, since the 1990s, the eutrophication and the organic contamination in Dianchi Lake have been increasingly aggravated, and the overall water quality has been inferior to that of Class V. The high nitrogen status index in Dianchi Lake also indicates that the water body is eutrophic. The next part, literature review. In order to solve the problem of water pollution in Dianchi Lake, a lot of study on the environmental protection of the lake from all different perspectives has been done. Huang Dongmei, as an example, she explored the government's measure of Dianchi Lake from the perspective of the law, and she called for the strengthening local legislation. And Zheng Guangyu, he mentioned that according to the international practice, the water intake of the river should not exceed 40% of its total amount, and the utilization rate of the Dianchi Lake water resources has already exceeded its limit. Wu Ying and her team member believes that the government of the Dianchi Lake is not only a technical problem, but it also involves the concept of ecological ethics. And Dong Haijing and his team members proposed to rely on the nature forces to restore the ecosystem of the lake. And they believe that exploiting the water purification function of the lake itself is the fundamental outlet for the Dianchi government. And as for me, this paper's research purpose is hope that through this paper, it will promote the interaction and the communication between the policymakers and academic circles, managers, and the public, and eventually form a plan of a comprehensive management of the Dianchi Lake. And we also want to make a full preparation for the Kunming's next round of striving for a national civilized city, and finally achieve a sustainable development in this region. Okay, the next part, methods, results, and discussion. Methods. This paper used methods of random sample test and a questionnaire. Firstly, a nutrient enrichment experiment was conducted with the water from the Caohai and Waihai, as well as the major rivers that enter into the lake. We take the sampling depth at the 1.2 meters. Then we judge the water quality of the Dianchi Lake based on this scientific experimental data. Finally, a relevant questionnaire in which public views on this issue could be directly obtained was taken to find the cause and the solutions of the Dianchi Lake water pollution. And here is the results. First, the experimental results is shown as the figure. And from the figure, we can see that the control of water contamination in Dianchi Lake is long-term, arduous, and complicated. Why? Because from the figure, we can see that the water inferior to V classes accounts for nearly 69% and is very serious. And the questionnaire results. We totally issued 500 questionnaires and received 48 copies. There are several conclusions and results from the survey. The water contamination in Dianchi Lake is mainly manifested in 5 aspects. 2, the citizens' awareness of environmental problem is not enough. 3, there are many causes of contamination in Dianchi Lake. However, 19% of the factors are man-made. That means the most factors are human factors. 4, there are many problems that are needed to be solved in the Dianchi Lake. And in order to restore the ecosystem of the lake, we must first improve the water quality of it. 5, the government has invested enough funds in this area. And now it's necessary to combine the rule by man and the rule by law. And the problem of the Dianchi Lake contamination is not only a nature, science, and technology problem. It's also inseparable with the public values. Okay, discussion. Okay, the important part. Most people believe that the water pollution in Dianchi Lake has nothing to do with their own lives. And this shows that the citizens' awareness of the public environment protection is still needed to be promoted. There are many causes of the lake pollution, including the nature factors and human factors. However, 90% of the factors are man-made. And this result further confirms that the people's awareness of the environmental protection is not enough. So it's very necessary to popularize the environmental protection knowledge to the public and gradually cultivate their awareness of environmental protection. In addition, as humans' poor protection activities that caused the rapid deterioration of the water quality in the lake. The water deterioration first manifests in its eutrophication. In recent years, the number of large-scale processing big companies that entered into Kunming has increased, and the discharge of the industrial wastewater has increased too. However, there are currently only 8 large-scale sewage treatment plants in our country, and their capacity for treating wastewater is very limited. Under the current conditions, the actual utilization efficiency of chemical fertilizers is very, very low. And the loss of the nutrition is quite serious in the agricultural production. Besides, the most agriculture companies generally adopt high-density farming and put in a lot of biot, such as concentrated feeds, aquatic grass, and dry grass. This extensive farming model will produce a large amount of fresh excrement and residual food, and this resulting in eutrophication and swamping of the lake. As time went by, the reservoir capacity of the lake gradually decreased, and the function of the diverting and impounding water became weak. And finally, the wintering environment for the migratory birds deteriorated. The large-scale projects that made lands around the lake have also destroyed the natural vegetation and loosened the surface soil, resulting in serious soil erosion. The invasion of some alien species squeezed the living spaces of the original animals and plants. What is worse, the smell of these alien species has greatly reduced the tourism value of the lake. And finally, the water quality of the 29 rivers that flow into Dianchi Lake is mostly inferior to Class V. When the polluted rivers come together, the level of water pollution increases. Therefore, it is necessary to truly implement the river chief system and request them to enhance monitoring duties of various branches of the lake and guard against the proliferation of the pollution sources. And my suggestions. Comprehensive governance of the Dianchi Lake has an important impact on the production and the life of the citizens, and is also relates to the sustainable development of our province and our province image on the international stage. Therefore, we must formulate a comprehensive plan for its prevention and control. I want to share some ideas with you. The first one is the governments must vigorously promote the public spirit activities. And these activities can promote the Dianchi Lake, can protect the Dianchi Lake, and also increase investments in funds. 2, everyone should abide by the law, and the law is the regulation for the protection of the lake in Yunnan province, and take legal protection for it. 3, experts and scholars should continue to explore new technology to purify the water in the lake. And next one, the big companies. Big companies should take their obligations. That means they should discharge industrial wastewaters strictly to the standard, and they should also contribute funds to the protection of the lake. It's their duties. Finally, conclusion time. Conclusion. Dianchi Lake is one of the most important wetland ecosystems in Yunnan province, and its water contamination is terribly detrimental to the living environment of the urban residents. And its water contamination is also triply detrimental to the good images of Kunming City, and is also triply detrimental to the competitiveness of this city. It's hoped that through this paper and with our joint efforts, the water quality in Dianchi Lake can be improved, and the ecological restoration can be promoted, as well as the comprehensive environment in Kunming can be optimized. Finally, sustainable development in this region can be achieved eventually. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yu Zhifeng, for your presentation. Now, my question is, how to protect the environment of Dianchi Lake from ourselves, and what is your idea? Okay.
Oh, thank you. My answer is citizens should establish environmental awareness and don't discharge pollutants arbitrarily. Daily domestic sewage, garbage, and livestock should be treated in a concentrated and harmless manner. And what's more, everyone is supposed to took part in voluntary activities to protect Dianchi Lake. As for me, the excellent example of Zhang Zhengxiang, he is the guardian of the Dianchi Lake, should be propagated in our society. Thank you.
Next session will be about project presentation. Thank you. See you next time.